Boom. And we are live and we are back again. And I just want to say that I hope you are doing well and looking forward to seeing what philosophical quotes we come across tonight. As I've seen the first one, but I haven't seen what's to come next. And the last quote we went over, where were we? We were talking about the willing are led by fate, the reluctant dragged. All right. And so the next one by Robert Greene. Too many people believe that everything must be pleasurable in life. And I don't know if it's necessarily a conscious thing, but I know that people will do all that they can to give themselves at least the illusion of peace, the illusion of safetyness. What's up, family? Thank you for checking in. So the illusion and the downside of this, I probably wouldn't even need to tell you because this may be you or you know somebody in your life it's like this. But at one point, this was me also. Is to avoid confrontation, to avoid obstacles, to avoid pain, to avoid suffering. They stay small. They stay where it's nice and comfortable. All right. Even if the comfort is uncomfortable. And I know that doesn't really make sense, but it's kind of like one of those things where you stay in an abusive relationship out of familiarity. All right. Because that is somewhat, seemingly better than what is unknown. So people will take, known misery over unknown whatever, an unknown fate. And that's familiarity for you. And because I'm obviously big on perspective and I'm obviously big on stoicism, the magic happens when you take your reluctance out of things and you just go about it just as is. You just go about it. You just endure. You just do it because time goes by fast. And I don't have to tell any of you hardworking people that there's been many times you drag your feet to go to work. And as you start to realize, I hope after a few minutes or a few hours, especially, or maybe especially when you get to the halfway mark after lunch or something, you realize that it's not even really that bad. The toughest part was getting your ass up to go. All right. And this is why I always mention is like no matter what you're going through, especially if it's uncomfortable for you, you don't like it, it's unfavorable, that you always gotta have a plan. You always gotta have an ace in the hole. You always gotta be looking for a way out. That doesn't mean a way to run. That doesn't mean a way to, duck responsibility. It doesn't mean you curl up in a ball. It's just life is a puzzle. I keep talking about this. I realize it the more that I play chess. It's just really, chess is really a puzzle and life is a puzzle. All right. And so that's why you don't want to get too attached to a certain way of doing things. It's because it limits you. It keeps you quite small, you know? Like, for example, because there are a lot of meats that I don't eat. All right. Right now I only eat seafood. All right. And that's the most that I will ever eat. I was a vegetarian for 4.5 years. And so people will look at me and they'll say, well, first of all, obviously I don't have a problem gaining weight. I gained weight. I gained 18 pounds since May. But people will look at me and say, well, I mean, I don't know what to feed you. You don't really eat too much. And I'm just thinking, like, there's got to be like 60,000 edible plants in this world, and all I did was stop eating six different things, six variation, six different meats or so. Well, I don't know the number, but you get what I'm saying. It's like, and obviously this is kind of drifting away from the quote, but you know do all that you can to make sure that you are not limiting yourself. Do what you have to do to uh, endure that which you are trying to avoid, because suffering is a part of life. You can try to evade suffering for as long as you want, but it's going to be building up in one way or the other. Okay, some type of suffering. If you want to avoid talking to people, for as long as you can, social anxiety, whatever it is, there's going to come a point in your life where you start looking around and you realize that everyone is so far established in their social life, and they got these friends and all these, and you have nothing. And you have nothing. And I was because old habits really do die hard. It just gets harder and harder as time goes on. This is why you gotta be very fluid, very fluid. And this is why I do celebrate when things go well. I do feel that joy. But this is why I kind of treat everything the same. I'm never really jumping out of my body when things go well. And it's because I want to train myself to see also things that aren't that favorable as something that is favorable, because at any given moment I can always reach into my proverbial pocket and grab something that I am grateful for. You know what I'm saying? And so a lot of you understand this. I mean, philosophy. No, I mean, Stoicism was made by people who wanted to find better ways to experience uh, life. In spite of its obstacles, in spite of its harshness, in spite of how unfair uh, it can be. All right. So when you get out of that victim mindset and you think that the world is just out to get you and some people will have it better than others, because none of that really helps you. Fact of the matter is, you still got to live unless you say, I'll commit suicide. But I don't recommend that. In fact, it's actually very beneficial to be suicidal. I realized this through my own journey. Is that when you start feeling suicidal, then that means if you really are suicidal and you're not just bullshitting, it means you don't care about certain things. And if you truly don't care about certain things, then what do you have to lose? And if you have nothing to lose, then you just take shots. And you say, okay, well, I guess since I'm here, might as well just do what the fuck I want to do. Okay, and then you have this kind of like twisted exit plan. You're like, well, if all else fails, then I just kill myself. All right. But until then, let's go ahead and do it. Let's rock. I have, man, trauma will have you turning shit into lemonade, you know? No, it actually reminds me of my uncle's friend. He was talking about how his friends used to work at the sewage plant, something like that. And he said that they would clean the water so good, they would make lemonade with it. All right. So I don't know. It's just something I thought about. All right. Rest in peace to Marvin. All right. Where we go? Uh, a rational person can find peace by cultivating indifference to things outside of their control. All right. So I mean, look, this is I figured that it was going to reach a point where where it starts to get a bit redundant. You know what I'm saying? Because again, at the end of the day, it's all about perspective. But basically, this is what it's just saying. The things that you can't control, you don't give it a second thought. All right, you acknowledge it and you let it go. This is actually something that I feel myself practicing a lot lately. And you know what? It is very freeing. It feels very good to try not to tell somebody that they're wrong. It feels very good to not get into a debate. It feels very good, and not trying to show people like I know what's going on. I know. Because some of the things I talk about on this channel, these are some certain things that I can't talk to, perhaps, like your everyday baby boomer, for example. But then, I was just sitting thinking to myself, and because there's a little conflict in me. It's like, man, you should tell them what's what. But I was like, man, as long as you know what's what, man, you should have peace. You should have peace in knowing that you know what's what. And the fact of the matter is, if it is true, it'll come out. It'll come out in due time, and then you can explain. But until then, man, your peace should always be a priority. It should always come number one. to being right. All right, fuck that. Because even if you are right and all of the facts out there, you got all of the facts and all the facts are out there. Who's to say that they won't practice cognitive dissonance? You know what I'm saying? It's just like just like one of those things where you're telling the truth, you're telling the truth, and somebody's calling you a liar, and they trying to make up all of these reasons why you're lying or what you're really doing, and you're like, what the fuck you talking about? How you gonna I'm telling you the truth. It becomes it gets to the point where it's like, one, okay, I wish I would have done that shit the way you treated me, and two, it's just like, okay, well, fine, all right, believe what you want then, all right, I'm a bad guy, all right, but nothing should take precedent over your peace. Nothing should come before your peace. All right. Yeah. Here's a good one. Here's a good one. If you are easily provoked, you are easily controlled. All right. I'm going to just keep making chess references until the day that I die, man. And this may not be the last time in this video, but through chess, I've been learning to kind of sit back, not take anything personal, because you never know what's going on in somebody's mind when they make a certain decision, when they talk to you a certain way, you know, or when it seems like they aren't really paying attention to who their words or actions may affect. But one thing that I realize is that if you allow yourself to be reactive, you are kind of enslaving yourself. You are trapping yourself in a sense, because you are being moved, by others, by the actions of others, by the words of others. And so, that I'm big on expectations. I'm big on expecting something like that. Always expect for somebody to knowingly or unknowingly throw you off. Whether if they attempt to do it or if they just, it's bound to happen if you aren't on guard. All right. So this is why, no matter what another person may be going through, the goal, the objective, the tool is to practice calmness, to be still. Don't even feel a need to say anything right away. Allow them to get it out of their system. Now, I have grown to learn that it does not make you weak if you don't go jawing back and forth with somebody. True strength is abstaining from such actions that you don't really want to engage in. We engage in something like arguments and getting each other face. That's pride. We feel attacked. Maybe in some degree, we may, or to some degree, may feel a bit inferior. You know what I'm saying? But under normal circumstances, or if you feel like you were dealing with somebody who was a non-factor, a non-threat, then you wouldn't be so reactive. You wouldn't be so quick to let them anger you. All right. So that, I mean, that's true. That's true maturity. All right. So as long as you're prepared for what can come as a result of what would happen from arguing, then you shouldn't have to worry about the argument at all. So let me explain. Let me explain. So I'm a man. Let's say that I'm dealing with another man. Now, I know from experience that arguments could turn into name calling, could turn into fighting. All right. I can't control what another person does, but I can control what I do. And so if I decide I don't want to argue for whatever reason, maybe because I don't want to argue and also put my peace first, then I have to also keep in mind what what would come from a result of arguing, what it can turn into. And this is only from experience. Now, people can argue and not throw hands, but my mind goes there just from experience. And so I'm more so thinking ahead, thinking, okay, if it were to come down to a fight, would I be prepared for that? And I'll prepare for that mentally. And and the reason why I would prepare for that mentally, even though I won't engage in arguments, because you just never know how people will respond to you not responding at all. All right, you could be talking, you could be talking calm, you have a calm demeanor, and the person you talking to, they just real greasy. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that's just what they're accustomed to. Talk shit, somebody else talk shit back, then you start fighting. But the fact of the matter is, in matters of fighting, you already have the advantage by being calm. They getting steamy. They getting real steamy, but what they don't know is that they're late to the party. Because by the time they get ready to fight, your mind has already been there without the anger. You probably was sizing them up mentally. You have a sense of clarity. You already there. So around the time where things may pop off, you're already ready for that. All right. So I'm always just thinking about the outcome regardless. And I'm usually always thinking about the worst case scenario, even if I take the high road. I hope that makes sense. All right. So you don't want to be somebody else's slave. And this is why I'm big on mastering yourself, getting to know who you are. So all these other random people, they don't affect you. I tell you what. So last night I was talking to yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. Last night I was talking to this woman, and she I never met anybody like that personally. And basically, she got a man to buy her a house, got her some cars, BMWs, go traveling all the time. She got a $37,000 Rolex. She got a ring on her finger that costs $100,000. She got 2 degrees, all of these things. In fact, she says she's partially retired. You know what I'm saying? She's only 31, I think. I think she's 2 years older than me. And you know something? It was interesting to talk to her just because of who she is. She's very quirky. She's a firecracker, a little short woman. But all of these accolades she spoke, all these things that she said these things that she had, and she showed me that she had. I mean, she showed me. Uh, it meant nothing to me. It didn't intimidate me. And I was telling her, I was like, man, you know what? It really doesn't matter who I talk to because I know who I am. It just does not matter. All right. I never feel the need to try to make me seem like I'm somebody I'm not. If I'm talking to a millionaire or a billionaire or whatever, I don't feel the need to say, "Oh, yes, I also have a business." That shit don't fucking matter. None of that shit. None of that matters, man. Your fate can change extremely fast, and I like to stick to my own personal guns. If that ain't enough for you, then I don't care. All right, I'm only worrying about what's enough for me and the people in my life who gonna stick around. All right, and so I take that same philosophy with the kind of with every aspect of my life. All right, so the more I build up my competency and the many aspects of my life, the more my confidence grows, the more I get to know what it means to be me, the less I am controlled by everybody else's story, man. Like, look, I'll take a razor, and with the same force that it would take for me to bleed, it would take for you to bleed. You know, and uh, and that's that. You're right, no cap, except for this one that my mom bought me. Moms are weird, man. Anybody mother got a spending problem, they just buy rant weird shit. Look at this. So I go get something to eat. She give me a hat to say 2021. Now what am I supposed to do when it's 2022? Hmm. She didn't think about that. See, but it's nice material. Very snug. Okay. Okay. I was skipping. Um, the next one. Oh, that by the ancient sage or at the ancient sage. I don't know if that's a person or a page or you know. Uh, be an island of calm in the sea of craziness. Yes. Yes, I was. Yes. Oh man, it's like everything I'm coming across right now is just kind of reminding me of what I was talking about earlier, what I was reflecting on earlier. But yeah, to be an island of calm in the sea of craziness. It reminds me of something that Jordan Peterson was talking about. And he was saying basically that at a funeral, there's got to be somebody who's crazy enough to be composed, to have it all together. Somebody has to be composed, surrounded by a bunch of people who are breaking down. And then I started to realize as more and more news was coming out about all the craziness going on in the world, what may be going on, what may develop. I realized what my purpose is, and at least one of my purposes, and that's to obviously taking as much information as possible, be very discerning, be able to articulate the information and to definitely remember a great deal of it, make peace with it, and when shit hits the fan and the world around me goes crazy and everybody's panicking, then I can be that calm face at the funeral. This is that it's almost going to be like it's my time to shine, and I can feel it. This happens to me many times, so I know that this is true, where it just feels like this is the way things are going to go, because I understand to some degree the magnitude of shit that will be coming out. There will be a lot of heartbreak. All right. I don't know. A lot of people will be feeling loss, a lot of jaws hitting the floor. All right. So, and also reminds me of something where I don't know who said this. It could have been. It wasn't Will Durant. It may have been. God damn. Warren Buffett, who was just saying where everybody's going crazy, you should be calm. When everybody's calm, you should be going crazy. Or when everybody's happy, you should be sad. Everybody's sad, you should be happy. Whatever it is, though, that type of thing. All right. So I can definitely see myself falling into that category. But yeah, so be an island of calm in a sea of craziness, man. I have to say, and maybe I don't have the best words for this, but there's something to be said about somebody who can stay composed in the midst of madness. Maybe it's because you have so much experience where you learn from it, or it could just be that I don't know. It could be that, all right, because I know that personally that's the case for me. And then you learn how everybody else, how others respond to chaos, and then you gather that that doesn't really work. All right, so you try to figure out what works for you. All right, so that's that. And by the way, before I start this next one, I just want to say, because I started taking some of my old videos and putting them on podcasts, just trying to catch up a little bit. And let me just say, I was listening to one of my videos. I forgot what it was called. I think it was something like "My Life as a Radical" and "How I Failed You All," something like that. But regardless of that, listening to that, I realized how buried I was under substances. I really was. I just felt the need to say that. And I think it may tie into what I'm about to say next. So the next quote is: relentlessly prune bullshit. Don't wait to do things that matter and savor the time you have. Okay. So this is kind of layered here. There's a couple of things to address. So relentlessly prune bullshit. So um speaking to the video from months ago is very interesting. Um, this was late April. The videos, if I uploaded it on YouTube shortly after it was on Facebook. I'm not sure, but not too long after that, within the next 10 days or whatever, within the next, yeah, 10 days, I was going to the hospital. I was in the hospital for abusing substances and all of that. And so in there, I knew that I needed to turn my life around. I needed to get rid of some things, and I needed to get rid of some crutches because they weren't crutches at all. Really, they were debilitators. They were debilitating me. It was making it harder for me to think. It was making it harder for me to learn, harder for me to be productive, harder for me to have great mental health. I needed to get rid of that shit. All right. Always trade good for great. And by the way, it's quite a compliment to call that good. It wasn't good, but always trade what you have for something better until it's sustainable. All right. Um, don't wait to do the things that matter. And see, this is something that I had to learn as a historically lazy person. Uh, and learning from my aunt who's very proactive is that if you take care of problems as they come up, then you don't have to worry about them later, because a lot of, as you may know, a lot of problems build up. All right, if you don't take care of that tooth problem, then you're going to inherit a very uh, dangerous, painful tooth infection. You know what I'm saying? If you don't fix your eating habits now, then you may end up having a heart attack at 35 years old. All right, you might have heart failure because you want to keep eating Big Macs. Okay, that shit creeps up on you. And to be honest with you, you know, McDonald's and Popeyes, they are doing very illegal things as far as selling food with trans fat. It is recommended that you don't have any food with trans fat at all. All right. I don't know how I got there, but I'm just saying, solve problems as fast as possible. You say you quit smoking weed overnight, cold turkey. Yeah, that's how I do things. Cold turkey. I don't really believe in kind of weaning myself off. Now, for some things, yeah, I guess you do have to do that. But even when it comes to like medication and stuff like that, but even with certain medications, maybe because the doses were fairly low, man, I would just take my chances. Like, man, I don't like taking medication, so I just won't, and then I'll just work myself through it. All right. So luckily, nothing negative came of that. But yeah, I mean that's how I recommend. Just rip the band-aid off, or it's like I always like to say, like the documentary of this is like this Wolf Man or whatever. I forget what it's called, but he would live among wolves. He'd raise them and stuff like that. And what he was talking about is that he would be among the wolves, and sometimes he'd end up getting stitches from, I don't know, maybe bites or cuts, whatever it is, because you know how wolves, they're wolves. What the fuck, they're animals. And so he would get stitches, and he would come back around them, and the wolves would notice the stitches, and they would rip them off and lick the wounds, and they actually heal faster like that. All right. So how does that apply to this life? Rip the stitches off and lick your wounds. All right. Just take them off and go at it raw. All right. I don't know. In my mind, I had something there, but whatever. And the last part of that, savor the time you have. It's, it's as simple as that. You know, like it's okay to, in my opinion, it's okay to enjoy things that may not necessarily um, advance your narrative. But if you find yourself doing something like watching TV or playing the game or you know whatever else you can think of, and you're bored and it's not productive, then you should be doing something else. Like, please don't watch TV. I'm so bored. Please don't be scrolling on your phone. I'm so bored, but I keep doing this. I'm so bored. What to do? If you're gonna be bored, you might as well be bored doing something productive. You know what I'm saying? You're supposed to be having fun if you're gonna do something that's not productive. Come on now. All right. Or that doesn't add to your narrative, or that doesn't advance your story, I should say. Because I think that there are some things that don't advance your story that can be productive. Like I think there, to some degree, watching TV could be productive. Okay, if as far as your imagination goes, as far as maybe giving yourself something to look forward to, and video games, of course, definitely. There's many articles on the benefits of that. I can attest to the benefits of playing video games. It really did help me with depersonalization. It at least helped me get more comfortable with it. All right. So definitely not out of the woods with that one, but it helps. And playing a lot of chess, and I think that that's both productive, and it advances the story. All right. Always, always, always. Okay. How many did we do? Uh, we did one, two, three, four, five. Let's do one more, okay? Because again, it gets kind of redundant, but I like the challenge of trying to find multiple ways to say the same thing. All right, be a master of the mind, not mastered by the mind. Okay, meaning you have the beginning say and you have the final say. The fact of the matter is, if you succumb to the mind and you do something that can't be undone, you still have to suffer the consequences. You can't go to court after you murder somebody out of whatever, out of a type of anger that you couldn't control, and say, "Well, Your Honor, well, I mean, my mind, it just took over." Maybe you could get away with insanity. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, you're still going to suffer the consequences. So if you suffer the consequences for what your the physical you does, what your hands do, what your feet do, what your mouth do, you need to figure out how to control that. You have to take complete control over the mind and the body. Okay? Make it a practice, and you can do that when the pressure is not on. That's where you start. All right. When the pressure's not on, that's not a good time to just relax and coast. All right. When the pressure's not on, you want to put pressure on yourself. You want to challenge yourself. You want to put the ball in your court. So when the pressure is on, then you can relax. That's how that works. I know, like, it's just interesting the way life works is that you go hard when you don't need to, so when you need to, you won't have to. It really works that way, and it's just an interesting aspect of life. Okay, so always work on that's the thing. Whew, I gotta say this one, I really do. A lot of us, most of us, we look for something to master. It would be good to be a master of, if I can just master one thing, just be a master writer, a master dancer, a rapper, a master design, whatever it may be. And we never just get this thought, what if I could master myself? You have an opportunity to master something, but because you won't be uh, directly celebrated for that, you won't do it. But here's the thing: if you learn how to master yourself, then you are turning yourself into an ultimate tool, an ultimate weapon. And it's because of this, then you will be useful in other aspects. All right. This is how I'm able to make so many videos. This is how I'm able to keep making, these philosophical videos, whatever it is. I'm able to do this because of who I've turned myself into. And I bring what I do in my studies, I bring them to you. I bring them into my way of living. It's not just information that I carry, although I pass it on. I use these things. Okay? It cultivates me. It turns me into who I need to be. An ultimate God. Yeah, that's right. You start there, and that's when the sky is the limit. You know, maybe you heard this before, or obviously, I'm sure you heard this before, but maybe somebody's told you, maybe you told somebody, maybe you heard somebody tell the next, but whatever. They say the sky is the limit. All right, now everybody can't internalize that is because they're so blocked off. And they're so blocked off because they're not spending time mastering themselves. Okay? So they're not expanding their horizons. All right. Everything always starts here. It starts here and it ends here, and in between it goes through here. When you checking in throughout the day, always keeping a healthy dose of perspective. All right. Wow, that's crazy. Wow, that's crazy. Okay, so the next thing was basically what I was just speaking on. I think I talk too much. I talk too much when the camera's on. And so, I gotta hit this one. It's from Conor McGregor, and it says, "The more you seek the uncomfortable, the more you uh, will become comfortable." And that's what I meant. All right. The more you go hard when you don't need to, the harder you'll be when you need to. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's not exactly what I said, but yeah, because it's no matter what you try to label as, it's the same thing. And what I mean is, okay, either things get easier or you just get better at dealing with tougher things, with tough things. It's just a matter of perspective. Either way, to me, it's kind of all the same. And instead, you just get better at navigating. All right, you get better at better at doing things. Okay, that's why practice is so important. All right, and this is why I don't forego who I've become. I don't forego what it means to be me when I step out into the world and I see people who don't mirror me. That doesn't even make sense. All right, it just doesn't make sense. All right. Uh, so with that being said, thank you once again. Perhaps I'll be back tomorrow. We'll see. It's responsibilities and stuff. But all right, take care.